so I guess welcome back to another Hidden City Roller podcast. This time we have three people on the podcast rather than the usual two. We have, for all your buttery goodness, Butters.
Hey, how's it going?
You have no idea how long I've been waiting to use that one. I've been thinking about that all week.
Buttery goodness.
Yeah.
Just a week.
Next time I can't. Next time, put somebody else in place and say, "I can't believe it's not Butters." I think is the next.
So good. And we're joined as well by Clint, also in the Western Australia contingent of the Legend of the Five Rings community. How's it going, Clint?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Excellent.
So what's your Discord or Jigoku handle, Clinton? Clint?
Honestly, I've taken a break recently, but it used to be Bethrazin. So
Bethrazin?
if anyone really wants a game, let me know. I'm more than happy to jump on and try my ridiculously silly decks.
Nice one.
Nice.
Very
You
good.
said that you were an L5R player from a while back, yeah?
Yeah, when I mean a while back, I mean the start, as in basically Imperial with the Celestial Swords and all that fun. Walked in, started the game, and here we are, 22 years later?
Yeah.
Yep. After a short intermission. Yep.
So when did we start playing? That was like 98-ish?
98,
99?
yeah.
Something like that? Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of around the time where I think was it Wizards of the Coast got a hold of it and made Hitomi some sort of dark god, dragon killer, and all the rest. And we went, oh, okay.
Yeah, all the obsidian hand times. That was it. And there was goblin decks and other glorious things.
Oh, please bring back the Shadowlands. I want to see the good old evil goblin swarm decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see a Shadowlands deck.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we might be waiting a little while for that, though.
Yeah, I think someone I was talking to, I think it was you, Nathan. Basically, we had an idea of how they could really introduce it. Instead of actually having a stronghold, you have like support of the Shadowlands, which kind of gives you like 18 influence, and then you can just kind of corrupt a clan.
Yeah, that wasn't me, but that does sound good. I think what you do though, if you're going to do like a support of the Shadowlands or a Jigoku ring, effectively, or whatever, or something like that, you'd basically make it so that like you don't lose honor from things anymore, but you can't get honor victories and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like raw grossness from Shadowlands stuff.
Yeah, back in the days of the original Shadowlands stronghold, basically you can't gain, can't lose honor, and that's it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean that. Yeah.
They would need to backfill a whole bunch of Shadowlands cards, though, right? So,
Well, that's it. I think you could make it anywhere. Like if you wanted, if they had enough Shadowlands stuff out there with it, like at the moment, what have they got? They got the Goblin, the Oni. Is there anything else?
Yeah. It looks like they're getting some new ones in the Imperial cycle. I saw something vaguely like an undead gigantic chicken, bone chicken or something.
Oh, okay.
On one of the pictures.
Say what?
If you look at some of the pictures, usually I find that in the RPG and all the rest, that the pictures are used in upcoming cards, and one of them is effectively a skeleton bone chicken that a crab samurai is basically about to pummel in the head.
An undead Fushicha.
Possibly, yeah.
There's the what do you call it as well? The crab guy that you have to sacrifice somebody for him to get into a combat.
That would be cool.
Oh yeah.
No, that's a card.
The Tainted Hero. Yeah, that's the third one. That's
the one.
Yeah, no, that's so 3. But you could run it. I mean, that's if they had plenty more, you could run it out of anything. You could run it out of Shiro Shinjo, get plenty of fate, and dump everything in. We can dream. That's all right.
Yeah.
Wait for Fulang to wake up, then we'll do it. Yeah, nice one. So Merlin, have you been playing much Rings last couple of weeks?
I did the whole thing where I invited people over to my place for the weekend. Well, not for the weekend, but on the weekend to play some games. Some of the new players, some of the older players. We played heaps of Rings.
Oh, nice.
I played some more. I played that line deck. Actually, remember that line deck we were talking about?
Yeah. The Scorpion line.
Yeah. And I was like, I can't wait to put this deck together to try and figure out, what it does. And it seems like the main strength of the deck is it just has answers to everything, right? So you put in a big defender, it's got 1 copy strength in numbers, I think, it sends it home. Or, it plays the Forged Edict, obviously, to cancel all your opponent's events. It's like this super toolbox kind of deck. It was actually a lot of fun to play, a lot of fun. Some of the cards some of the card choices, like the Orator,
Yeah, I don't get it.
Not Radiant Orator, but whatever the Orator,
The,
Coma Orator, right?
yeah,
Um, he's he's actually not that bad. Like you bring him into play,
I don't believe you.
and well, you bring him into play, and then he's there for your Forged Edicts and your Four Shames and those kinds of abilities. And it
Yeah.
turns out that when your opponent's guys are bowed and not contributing force, you actually only need like 3 skill or 4 skill to break a province. So it's actually a lot of fun.
But there are
Good
there are
time.
much better people you could be using though, like that are the same cost and way more effective.
Yeah, are they courtiers though?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the 2 cost Lion Courtier, she's a -1, but then as long as you're more honourable than your
Yeah,
opponent,
but then you can honor it.
yeah, and she's
Yeah,
got
okay.
3 glory as well. So like she's a favor snagger as well. She does
Hmm.
quite well. Yeah, I rate her.
Yeah. I found it interesting that there was a lot of conflict characters as well, right? So you can use, so I would find myself buying small guys with 1 fate, even though they're like they seem to be like political characters that you would put into political conflicts.
Yep.
You would definitely be able to still put them into military conflicts and then buff them with all manner of things, bonsais and swords and things like that.
Yeah.
And it was surprisingly effective.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. I'll give it a whirl at some point. But as it like, I really like the look of the deck, but some of them like the Orator and stuff. I can't get sold on. I don't get it. But
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah. So what about
What about you?
Yeah, me and Clinton actually both had the same event at a local store in Rockingham Good Games over the weekend. That was good times. We faced off, and I ended up playing Unicorn with the old charge Chagatai routine, which was super good fun because actually I came to realize that if you're facing Toshimoko, who's normally a pain in the ass, all you need is Chagatai with 2 curved blades, so he's got 12 force, and
My God,
that's
Curve Blade is so good.
that's pretty much enough to ignore Toshimoko's stupid neutralizer duel.
Yoshimoku just goes, okay, I'm done. I'm going home now.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay then, I won't
Alright.
fight. Yeah, and Chags just does what he wants.
Yeah,
But,
basically. That's pretty much how our game went. It's like, hey, Chags is over here and crushing this too.
Yeah, I also had I ended up,
good.
it was the highlight of my day was having Sadia Al Mozido on the table, who's the unicorn courtier that flips provinces face down. And I also had the Talisman of the Sun, and I had Public Forum running, so every time a province got broken on Public Forum, you could Talisman across the Public Forum, you had to get its honor token, then you flip it back down. And I was also running the Border Fortress, I think it is, where you can flip things face up if you want to, and Templar Dragons and Khan's Ordu. So I could sort of, every conflict was nothing but military every turn.
Oh, I forgot about Templar Dragon. What is that? Void?
Yes,
it's
yeah.
fine.
So, but it's so good. Like I love how variable it is,
They
and when
don't
you're
to be
running,
seen anyway.
and when you're running talismans, as long as they're not hitting that one straight away, if they're hitting the right ring, and you're like, oh, I could really do with that ring effect right now, you can just talisman them across, flick it back up, and everyone except you is way happier.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a bit of fun.
Yeah, no, it
I
was good.
ended up disassembling my unicorn deck. I'm going to try and build some sort of political-based sort of unicorn deck out of the new Stronghold, I think.
Yeah, I think that'd be great fun as well. I'm trying to do something similar, but it's not really coming off. I can't settle on a direction or a build, but I know it's there. You've got to splash Crane or Lion, and I think you can kind of run for honor. I'm just not entirely sure how. There's got to be a way.
That's definitely worth a look in, I think. Splashing Lion for the combo, right? Like you break with Force of the River, and then you honor all your guys, and then they disappear, and then you get a ton of honor.
Yeah, well, the thing is, what you got, if you splash Crane where you run the festival, right? So you can Force of the River, get like 3 or 4 extra guys, festival, and honor them all. But also, Unicorn got that drop bear now, the 3-cost conflict character that can harpoon honored people.
Oh yeah, that was in the Crane pack.
Yeah, and I feel like that's super exploitable as well. Like your festival, honor all their guys and just harpoon them across, and I don't know, do all the other things you normally do with harpooned people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. So how
Because
about
all you really care about is getting your guys into play and on it. That's all you really care about.
Well, yeah, I mean they die, and whatever other nonsense you
Yeah.
want to do is great. But yeah, no, I think there's something there, and Unicorn have got plenty of stuff to honour themselves now. It's a bit of a Battle Maiden theme going on, but I'm keen to see that kind of stuff. What about your events on the weekend there, Clinton? I know we obviously played off against each other. How were your other games?
I played first game against Aaron with his dueling deck. I had him pretty much against the wall against the stronghold box, and then I stupidly forgot that the current dragon dueling decks can bleed you of like about 8 honor in a single turn if all the stars aligned, which happened for him.
Yeah.
So I lost that one breaking on his stronghold. Had a buy, and then I played you pretty much.
Oh, you had
Decided to do something a bit new and go for Crane. Built a deck around Dodoji Uji, who is unbelievably, I found, broken in the play games that I had. Unbelievably broken.
I just got my crane pack this weekend, so I'm very excited to try that out.
Uji
My
makes me
God.
sick.
My perfect game was basically I had him first turn. I had 2 of the dueling strongholds, and I can't remember what the third one was. Brought him out, and then basically just went to town dueling, helped with him a couple of swords and a bonsai, and just pretty much owned.
It really,
And then
Oh no, Uji, he confuses me. Like
because
I don't understand
Why?
how he's okay. Well, no, like he's very straightforward. I just don't get how they could print something so busted. Like having, no, really, like
let me reiterate Tanaka for a second there.
No, but it's honestly, I don't even think it's even the same thing. Like I can understand how you could print Tadaka and write it and think, oh yeah, like it's strong, but he's a 5-coster, it's fine. But Uji, like everyone knows that Hidden Moon Dojo is super good, right? But then you print this cost on Uji, which is just going to happen all the time. Like you're always going to have him on it.
It's Crane.
It's not hard out of Crane. But then to also add the cost reduction for everything that flips up, it just really perplexes me how that gets through. Like I don't get it. I just
Well, it's kind of like Tadaka as well. Basically, Tadaka. I may be saying sacrilege for the Phoenix players out there, but Tadaka honestly is, I think, more of a fair kind of version of him right now than what he previously was. Yes, he was a complete asshole of a card earlier, but he kind of fits more in line with the current other elemental masters and all the other stuff now, where you kind of have to put a bit of effort in to actually trigger his ability instead of dumping on the table. Oh look, you now no longer have to. You can't activate any events. They're currently in your graveyard.
I think the main thing with Tadaka now, I'll let you two obviously talk it. You're the 2 core Phoenix players, but I find playing against Tadaka now, even though it's just a little bit, like the first conflict, he's sort of going to lock air most of the time, or earth rather, and then it's game on. It's the same old story. But the fact that you've got that pre-conflict of the first conflict, where you can just play all your events and dump your let goes, and you can get all your cancels out and everything else that you need to do, I think that makes the big difference. But you're having the window to be able to play stuff for the rest of the turn.
It takes away the negative play experience, because that's pretty much the complaints I had on Jigaku, and that's pretty much the arguments I've seen across the board, is that the ability to sit there and go, well, I've got 20 cards in my hand and not the ability to use it is kind of, well, crap.
Yeah. So how did you two as Phoenix players, how did you both find the errata and restricted list changes impact your Phoenix decks?
You go, Clint.
I thought Tanaka was brought in line of what it should be with the other elemental masters. Basically, the water one, which is okay-ish, but the thread is get the ring, do something stupid. Basically, seems to be the thread, and Tanaka really needed to be brought in line. The ability for a Phoenix player to go, I put Tanaka into play, and look at that, you are now locked out of 90% if it's mid to late game, I found kind of boring. Basically, most people either gave up or the game just went downhill from there. Having Secluded Shrine put on the list, understandable, because basically if you didn't, all Phoenix players would do is go, look at that, 3 Secluded Shrines, and Tadaka's back to being the same old arsehole self he is. And Fires from Within basically kind of pretty much put Brace the Void on, but personally I thought, depending on the fate pool, that pretty much errataing Fires were within saying this cost cannot be modified.
5 fires,
done exactly the same thing. Oh, sorry, fires. Yeah, my
fires.
apologies. Old school kicking in there.
Yep.
Consumed by 5 fires. Putting a cost on there saying, also and errata it saying can't be modified would have done exactly the same thing and not taken a third card of the Phoenix on the list.
Right, you Merlin?
Yeah, I will just echo Clint's thoughts right there. I think I agree an errata on 5 fires would be nicer, but one of the guys in Melbourne was saying that they put Tadaka on the restricted list initially to try and curb the power level initially, and then they ended up errataing it. So I think if it could be the case that 5 fires is on the restricted list, and then depending on how the game sort of pans out, maybe it gets an errata to reintroduce Embrace the Void. Because I agree that Embrace the Void, all the other interactions were fine. It was just like this one interaction that was problematic.
Yeah, I don't think it was problematic, to be honest. Like, people say, oh, it just makes Embrace the Void. It makes 5 fires cost 2 instead of 5, and I'm like, well, not really. I mean, you're having to dump 2 cards out of your hand, which is super valuable. You still got to pay a bunch of fate. You know, you spend a bunch of actions you got to get through. I think
the interesting thing there is that each of these cards by themselves is perfectly fine. So you've got these cards in your deck, and when they come up in your hand, you're like, oh great, I can play and use these cards. You don't ever feel like you've drawn one card and you're like, right, I need to wait until I get the other card in so that I can get the super powerful combo interaction. Yeah. It was only like, oh, just when you happen to get both of these cards, does that kind of thing play out?
Yeah, no, I feel you. As I said, I just don't. I think it goes back to what we were saying last week. I think the Embrace the Void restricted status was probably just a bit too much. I don't think it was necessary. I mean, maybe, like, I don't play on the same tier as, you know, the top level competitive people, so maybe it's a bigger issue there than all the games I play in, but like, it gets played and you're like, okay, that's fine. But I mean, also, you're playing an attachment and you're playing the 5 fires event. Any cancel or any attachment destruction shuts down that combo, and like everybody runs either one or if not both of those. And I don't.
True, but what I've seen. Sorry to jump in there, Nathan. But a lot of the times I've seen is that a lot of people hold on to 5 fires and play it under Tadaka or a Master of Gishitoshi.
Yeah.
So you line it all up and it's devastating. I kind of realistically the combo should have been broken when. If they said it couldn't be modified, then it just takes everything out because it should be big risk for big reward.
Yeah. And in that kind of situation, the only cancel to it ends up being something like Kazue, which is like a non-event based cancel for spells.
Do you mean?
But I tell you what I do like.
Do you mean Kikyo or Kazue is the dragon one that steals fate, right?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Kikyo. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. The Scorpion canceller spell. Yeah.
Woodchuck. Yeah.
So, what I was going to say, in addition to everything that Clint said, was that I really like some of these elemental masters. Like, I actually like the way Tadaka works now, and I like the way that the Void Elemental Master works, because it does this thing to your opponent where your opponent's suddenly like, I don't know if I want to attack Void, or I don't know if I want to attack Earth, because as soon as I do, I am going to need to suffer these Elemental Master type effects. And since Earth and Void are 2 of the most powerful rings in the game, that's, that gives me a nice warm and fuzzy inside.
Watching and hearing the words, oh, by the way, he's deleted. Oh, it's in the graveyard? No, he's deleted as in get him out of the game. He's not coming back.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think all of that's fine. And there are plenty of lines of play for plenty of clans. The thing that I never liked about Tadaka is the negative play experience that you were talking about, right? Because I never want my opponents in any environment, competitive or otherwise, to feel bad for just playing the game, winning or losing, right? You should feel good playing the game when you're winning, and you should feel good playing the game when you're losing. So, if that helps with that, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I guess. I just started playing with a lot more attachments, to be honest, when Tadaka was thinking. Like, I try to have, at least I'd make a lot of decks where I try to go for, like, drop bears and then split equal attachments and events so that I'm just more resistant to that stuff. And also, attachments are good fun. They stick around. You get plenty of them. I think there's probably just maybe not enough attachments in the game. And I think that was probably if I had to wildly speculate, that when they made Tadaka and even Guest of Honor and all those others, they probably expected more events to be more prevalent in the meta, like in the game, whereas most people run really event heavy.
Yeah, it could be the case.
But that also opens up the other argument, also the fact that attachment hate is just so damn prevalent in this game. Like I've rarely seen anyone play. Yeah, I've never seen a high-end deck play any 2-cost attachments so far. I may be wrong. It's been a while since I've poked around a bushy builder, but
yeah,
it's just too prevalent.
Yeah, I think Daisho is the
I think
exception.
you're correct.
Like,
yeah, I think you're correct if you don't include Kazuya this time.
Yeah, well,
so you see some high-end decks with that in there, I think.
Now and then, I mean, but you've got to, like, if you're going to play, I think the thing is, if you have to play 2-cost attachments, or you want to, and you should, because they're amazing, right? They're really cool, most of them. Pit trap. But I don't know. Something in my throat and a weird stink in there. I don't know what that was. But if you're going to play those kinds of things, you have to expect they're going to get nuked, and you have to also back it up with event cancel, right? So that the let goes and whatever else get nailed, because otherwise, it's a massive liability. Like, nothing much feels better for me playing my KB Seeker of Air deck than when I calling in favors and steal a Daisho. Like, that is like the perfect thing for me, because not only does it mean that you don't get that Daisho anymore, so the honor swings aren't happening. Now it means that if you get another Daisho out, my little tower can take all those jewels, and we both cut even, and your whole stuff is shut down.
And the +2 actually makes the honor hit fairly irrelevant. You know, you don't get the negative stat because the thing's got you +2.
No, that's it.
I think that speaks to Clint's point, though, right? Like, you're always going to be running that type of stuff, and you're going to be disincentivized to run things that I would genuinely like to see things like the Wicked Tetsubo or the Ancestral Sword of the Phoenix. I would like to see those in decks. Yeah. Because I feel like they would be interesting cards to play with competitively and otherwise.
I am yet to do it, and I keep drafting decks that run Shiba Sakun, Yoritomo, and neutral Imperial Akodo Toturi with the Seal of the Phoenix and a Fushikai. So, like, you have 9 champions that you can Seal of the Phoenix and attach the Phoenix sword to, and it's just it's never come off, but it holds a special place in my heart, and I really just want to see it go. Yeah, just champions everywhere, champions for days. But yeah, no, I think that'll be good. They're the sort of nonsensical decks I like to mess around with. Like, they don't.
Yeah, but I miss the days where basically in old L5R the attachment hate wasn't as prevalent, so you could get away with the sword, and it always felt good to have a Celestial Sword of the Phoenix that give +1/+1 for every Phoenix personality in play, running around for a little bit. But then again, losing a combat in the old L5R was a lot more devastating than it is now.
Well, that's it, because in this game you can lose a conflict with a massive tower, and he's just there next turn, or you straighten him and move on, right? So it's very different. Whereas in old 5R, if you lost that conflict, unless you had some weird stuff to pull, he died. That was it. You could tower, but it only took one conflict and you were out. So quite a different experience. But it's, a little bit not apples and oranges, but red apples and green apples. I think.
Well, remember in Emperor Edition when you had like all of these like insane kill abilities that would just destroy units left, right, and center.
Yeah. So
you had that big cost of losing conflicts, but then you could kind of come back into it by murdering all of your opponent's stuff.
Yeah.
What was it? Crab had that U ability, YU. Every time
they
died.
Fear, wasn't it?
No, every time they died, basically they did a range attack equal to the U ability. So if the crab lost, they'd take you out completely as well. It's amazing.
Yeah, good times. Well, hopefully we see more of that stuff though. Like, I'm really hoping the crab pack has some pretty heavy berserker themes going on. Because that's
speaking of good times. Why don't you tell us about this format that you've been working on, Butters?
Oh, so was a little bit inspired by, I can't remember who made it, but the Daimyo format. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of that.
No.
So the Daimyo format is a format of L5R that I think is being tossed around by a guy in the US, and he's working on it at the moment. It's basically built to make 5 rings run in 15 minutes.
Holy
So,
hell.
like, quick, easy games, and you run 30 card decks. I think there's a few more to it. We'll put a link to it in the description of the podcast.
Yeah.
But so I thought, oh yeah, that is like it's different to what I wanted to accomplish. But I am, as opposed to quick games, I really want more varied games and more options. So I thought I'm going to put a format together. I've been spitballing it with a few people, and I've called it tentatively the Tatakai format, which is basically just the battle format, I guess, because I used a stupid Japanese online translator. And so, name pending, anyone that wants to suggest something non-garbage is feel free to do so. But so I've just sort of taken his template and grossly plagiarized the vague format, but shrunk it a lot. So the idea behind the format I've proposed is, and I'd love to run an event like this, is basically that the TLDR is both players, you make your conflict and your dynasty are both 45 cards instead of 40 to 45. You both play 45. Just prior to the game, you've both got 2 minutes to go through your opponent's deck. You take 5 cards of your choice out of your opponent's conflict and out of your opponent's dynasty. So if there's any...
So you get rid of all the cards that you hate.
Like, if you think, you know what, Tadaka, he can go die in a fire, I'm not doing that, and you get rid of it. You're like, you know what, Pathfinder's Blade is going to make this game not fun for me. It's going Daisho, die in a fire. You pick the 5 cards from each that you don't want. You've only got 2 minutes, so you can't and and like make life a nightmare. But the flip side to that is that you pick any role you like for your clan, your deck. There is no restricted list, and there are no banned cards. So anything can be in there, all your juicy combos, but your opponent, based on what they know of the game and how they play, can just remove that stuff. And that way, you can't leverage your entire deck on one gnarly combo, because if they take the wrong stuff, it gets knocked out. So the short of it is, start of the game, swap decks, your opponent will go through it, so they'll see all your provinces, they'll take 5 cards out of each, and then you swap back and you play. And it's just normal rules from that point on.
Dude, that's sick. That's a sick format. You know what we should do?
What should we do?
We're going to talk about the AE Discord League in a bit, but we should take this format and run an online league. What do you reckon?
I'd love to do that. I mean, this has not even been played yet. Don't get me wrong. So I'd certainly love to hear anyone that's listening and anyone wants to chip in and have a look. We'll post a list, share the doc to you, just the rules. I mean, they're super small. It's like 3 paragraphs. But the idea is, you just build what you like with any role. So it's basically free the rolls, #free the rolls is a thing in this format. And as I said, you just build 45, you both take things out. I don't think it's the sort of thing you can really play on Jigoku without Jigoku changing to support it. Because to like pre-game take cards out.
Well, it shouldn't be that hard to...
But there might be a way. I had a brief dabble, but I'd be dead keen to go into it a bit more and see what we can do.
Because Bushi Builder, like the Jigoku text import format is supported on Bushi Builder. So you should be able to sort of link the original deck and go, okay, here's the deck, take out 5 cards. You take it out of the text import blob and then just dump it into Jigoku.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's probably... I was trying to do it all like native in Jigoku. Like you put your deck in and then you just make something happen in manual mode. But no, that way works completely fine. I mean, but
I feel like with the schedule that they're going to have for these clan packs, the Jigoku guys are going to have their hands full.
Oh yeah, they have done... The Jigoku team have done an amazing job. Like I think Unicorn took about 7 to 10 days to go live from memory, but the Crane pack was done in like a week after it was released and it was all functional. Like I was pretty impressed. Like I was like, I'm gonna have to wait for ages, and no, it was good. It was super good. So like always, mad props to Jigoku people and the Bushi Builder guys. Like Bushi Builder crush it, man. They just, their stuff updates so quick. Bushi Builder's just got amazing tools. Like, it gives you all these stats, and it gives you all these filters, and it just, as the card pool increases, all that stuff matters more. And it's even got cool features they put in, because it's obviously a bit of a labour of love, right? They put stuff in they don't need to. Like on Bushi Builder, they've chucked in like smart builds. I'm not sure if you've seen those.
No.
So if you create a lion deck, right, and then it says what role do you want to play, or you can choose smart build. So you click smart build, and it goes, do you want to pick a role, or do you just want smart build to do it? And the smart build will basically just go, it takes the most popular role from the most popular stronghold and all of the most popular cards from the most popular splash, and it just builds you the deck. And it does, it just builds you a deck based on, I think, the stats and what everyone is playing. And they don't always come out exactly legal and perfect, but they're very close, and you just juggle one or two cards. But it's really neat. So like you can put something together and go, all right, I just need a template for my crab keeper of water deck because I've never played crab before. What do I do? You click these couple of buttons and it drafts it for you and just have a smash. Like it's super good work, and it impresses me daily. I really like it. Everyone should get in there.
You know when you said that, immediately I thought to myself, we have to have a tournament like that as well, where people at the start of the game they just randomly pick a clan and then they hit the randomize my deck button on Bushibo.
Well, it's not randomized. It's basically like
No, I know what you mean.
It's auto populating the good stuff for every clan.
Yeah.
So
give me all the good stuff.
That's it. Just give me your strongest. Yeah. So Lion basically get nothing. They get like Orators and stuff. Ikoma Orator or whatever that bloody card is. It's the worst.
Hey, that card was good.
No,
right? That card did some work.
I do not. I will believe it when I see it. So
it turns on bloody Forged Edict. And I tell you what,
you know what else?
You need that card turned on.
You know what else turns on Forged Edict is that what's the one coster Imperial Courtier with two political?
Oh, the Sepin Courtier or whatever.
Yeah, that bird. She's cheaper. She's half the cost of that guy. And has double the political skill for a courtier natively, I'll point out. But yeah. But no, look, the Tatakai format, or the format I put together, I'm dead keen to have a couple of games, actually. I'll do it live and just see how it goes.
Dude, we should totally do that. We should put some up on the Rollers channel, actually. Just play some games in this format and see how it goes.
Yeah, just post them.
And I think, actually, we should test the heck out of this thing, right? We should play some games online or run a small one-day event or something.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. As I said, like, I don't want to replace anything. I just bust my balls that I can't just play whatever I want in the regular game. Like, I really want to be able to just play all the roles. And I think you will find that the roles these days are mostly self-regulating. There is enough, particularly with Earth Becomes Sky coming out, and once all the clan packs are done, every clan and every role has enough stuff. Yeah, every clan and every role will have enough stuff that there's no right answer, I think. So,
did I tell you I voted for Seeker of Earth? In the last elemental thing.
Dude, was that based on Earth Becomes Sky?
Yep.
Yeah.
I would have done exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it was that, and I also voted for Seeker of Fire for the fire roll. Keeper of Fire for the fire roll card out of Phoenix. The one where you can't become dishonored.
Yeah, that's
that
good.
One. I think people may have gotten a bit too enamored by the whole Kunimori / shameful display / let's do this Curse of Juriku bloody Ring of Binding combo, which doesn't really work.
The thing about Jurijan's Curse is that it doesn't synergize with the goals of the current KI deck, which is the mid-range, value building kind of deck. Yeah. So if you play Jurijan's Curse, you're hurting yourself just as much as you're hurting your opponents. Yeah. Although I did think today that if you're at about turn 3 or 4, all your stuff is starting to disappear now. I did think that if you're at that point in the game, you could put Jurijan's Curse on the opponent and clear away some of the stuff, in that vulnerable sort of stage of the game.
I mean, can I throw out there for the Jurijan's Curse though? I mean, I know it's a bit cheaper, but why would you run that over like Mono no Aware, for example? Like, which you can just sort of drop anytime, strip fade off, and replaces itself as a card. It's like 2 extra fade or whatever, but...
Well, Tooth Fade's a big deal, I think. So Mono, yeah... I would run Mono, but again, it hits you.
But so does Jurijan's, though, like...
Well, I think you can control when Jurijan's hits you a bit more. So if you really do want Jurijan's to hit in a turn, you can still use it for its +1. Plus, it's searchable with Shrine Maiden. The
Oh
current
yeah,
version
yeah.
of my KI deck actually has somewhere in the area of 26 spells in it
Wow.
because it's got instead of fans, it's got Jurgen's Curse, and instead of katanas, it's got Fire Katana. And I think they're definitely not as efficient, but there's something to be said for the searchability of this stuff. But
Yeah.
I am actually going to take them out. I'm going to Compass now for not Spyglass for fans.
I
I'm not really
yeah.
sure what I'm going to do on Wheel of
No,
Doom.
I rate Compass heavily. That card is the best. I will hear no
Yeah.
arguments. That card just rocks my world. It's so good.
It's got to flip a province though, so you can't just attack with it and
It's fine.
get its ability. You have to flip up a
I
province.
mean, how many games go past like 3 turns though? Really? Maybe 4 for
No,
a
I know,
game.
but like there is an element of you either need to be very calculating about which province you're going to try and flip up,
Yeah.
and have a reasonable degree that it's not going to bite you because there are a lot of gotcha provinces out, like upholding, right?
Yeah.
Or you need to put it on people that aren't going to be in danger of, busting a gotcha province if you go scouting
Yeah.
with your
I
compass.
feel you. I think I just really like the filtering. I think being able to, like, if you're doing Phoenix Chargebird or just any number of decks that just want to drop people out of the provinces, or if you've got really key holdings you want, like at a Scorpion, for example, like the amount of times that I've scouted my Dynasty and said, oh, look, I can see Hidden Moon is in there in these top 3, I might just shuffle that around one so that when I replace these cards, it's going to be in the middle instead of a stupid edge province. Because my Hidden Moons have a curse where they only land on the very edges every single game. They never go in the
That's
center.
actually legitimate. I have played him enough times to notice that one.
It doesn't ever go in the middle ones. I'm always stuck. And then I always flip
Do you
like...
think it's like it's subconscious? You're somehow in your shuffling, somehow your subconscious is filtering these cards to the least optimal place.
Well, if that's the case, then my subconscious is a jerk and can go to hell. Because I don't like it and I want it to stop. It bothers me. But
Hey Clint,
Yo.
let me ask you something. So I have just recently put 2 copies of Hante 38th in my Phoenix deck. Thoughts?
do you have him in yours?
I just feel bad. I feel bad about putting it in because it's so expensive, and it just feels it doesn't feel right. Tell me why I'm wrong.
It's oh my god. Hante the 38 is basically. I have been on the receiving end of him a few times, and yeah, he's expensive as hell. But he's a card that basically, once you put on the board, just synergize. I think synergizes really well with Phoenix because you claim the favor and effectively say mine, and that works with Kanto District, and it works with every other bloody glory that you have, and you got the abilities of like during a conflict,
Yeah. I think...
our character.
Nah,
all this other stuff.
he is super good. I've found that Hante 38th synergizes really, really well with Legend of the Five Rings. So he just goes anywhere you want to drop him. Like, as long as you... The
In any deck.
any deck.
In all seriousness, like, the only prerequisite I feel he has is that you... well, obviously you need the favor. Don't try and play him without it. But if you need a board state first, if you've got a couple of people on the table, or even just one decent one, then he's great, but he can't do all the work on his own. He's absolutely a support dude. But like that, his redirect, like the bow is strong, but the redirect just ruins lives.
crazy.
Like you just sit there,
You're no longer afraid of like assassinates and stuff.
nothing. Like
Yeah.
he can just do whatever he likes. Like I played against another local guy, Andrew, and I had him on the table once out of my Phoenix deck, and he played Lion. He ended up, he just had to do some options, and everything your opponent does, they either have to trigger one of their actions or cards or whatever in a non-optimal space to mitigate the damage you might do if you redirect it, but they have to make it good enough so that you will redirect it. So he ended up doing his what's the ancestral Shugenja guy, the one that calls people out of the discard? I can't remember the name.
Kitsune Spirit Caller.
Yeah, it's Kitsu Spirit Caller, that's the one. So he ended up going, I'll just do that. And he had like Taturi and stuff in the discard, and I'm like, no, instead you can have this fucking obstinate recruit on the table.
Obstinate recruit.
Yeah, like
it just disappears.
Well, he had more on it, but that's what he got instead. Some garbage like that. So like, and that felt super good. I could have lost the game then. I would have been happy because that was a great moment. But that's what it does. Like, to put your opponent, you don't even have to trigger that redirect. The fact that it exists does all the work for you, and it's so strong.
Your opponent has to reshuffle basically what they're going to do to mitigate damage to you, and just the psychological effect can be devastating to something.
Yeah, I read
Yeah,
it.
the sequencing of your opponent's actions really has to be good, like spot on. And it allows you to get more actions in between their actions while they kind of take this route of actions that they don't really want to take. Because you can, if they take the really good one, like if they go Fate Worse than Death straight away, they'd be like, well, you're just going to redirect that. So no, they have to assassinate or charge or cav reserves or something that makes you want to redirect, and then you can do the big action that you actually want.
However, I believe there's one dragon card that pretty much shuts Hante up. Which one is it? Basically, you cannot activate any abilities if you're outside the conflict. Cannot remember what it's called.
Oh, yeah, I know that card.
Yeah, that's probably the one card if I would honestly expect to start seeing played just as a joke if Hante really starts.
I really want to say that's Grasp of Earth, but I know that's incorrect. That stops people.
It's not Grasp of Earth.
It's like written in the stars or something.
You're really pushing this whole Grasp of Earth thing, Nathan.
Such a good card.
It's a junk card.
I drafted a Phoenix deck that I haven't played yet called A Fate Worse Than Earth, and the whole thing revolves around that card. I'm determined to make it work.
I think I'm going to go looking for it.
No, Fate Worse Than Death is no good at all. Sorry, not Fate Worse Than Death. Grasp of Earth.
Grasp of Earth is terrible.
Yeah. So we were going to do this thing last episode where we were talking about like what makes cards good and what makes cards bad. But Grasp of Earth is like a whole case study in itself of what makes a card.
Mate, me and Remedy, we went over this. We made our case to Bert, and I feel like we won decisively. So I feel like we did. But it's a good card. I think it just needs the right support. Like, it does a lot and it's cheap.
Its wording is bad. Like, honestly, if I can't remember. I found the card. It's called Tranquility. Zero event from Dragon. Action during a conflict until the end of conflict. Characters in your opponent's home cannot trigger abilities, so it has no target. So I'm assuming Hante the 38 has no effect on it in redirect.
Certainly correct.
Yeah.
Not bad, actually. Good call on the Tranquility. Because that card really didn't have much relevance until this particular case.
I feel like it's super niche. Like, if you're going to run Tranquility, I couldn't see myself running more than one, but it's the kind of thing that your opponent would never see coming, and you just drop it to like turn off. Like, I suppose it. What else does it do? Like, I suppose like your Sinister Soshis and stuff like that, but.
Well, it does prevent certain cards that have movement related effects, you know, in and out of the conflict. Yeah. Or Shigenja that like the Asako one, no, not
Scholar. Solemn Scholar.
Well, yes, Scholar. I mean, just any of the Shigenja that have abilities that just work.
Hey, does it protect Phoenix from Kikuyo?
I don't think so.
Because that's an ability on a character outside a conflict.
Yeah. Something tells me that the way that cards kind of activate, I don't know. Actually, maybe I'd have to see a ruling on that one. But something in me says probably not.
It's just I'll ask. We'll submit it to FFG, and someone over there can roll their eyes.
It kind of falls into the category of Hidekisada versus what's that Feral Ningyo argument?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it's like a card it's an ability on a character outside of a conflict, but it's also in a non in play area. So having a card affect the card in an out of play area doesn't seem right.
But it's not doesn't do anything to the card. It just stops you playing it, right?
But then you effectively, if you kind of go along the same line of Feral Ningyo, you say, yep, okay, it prevents it, but it's in a non-play area, therefore it just forgets that it's just used the ability, and I can play it again.
Yeah, that's not how Tranquility works, though. It's a blanket. It's not a one-off. Anyway, I don't feel like this is going to be solved.
I wonder if Tranquility affects Feral Ningyo. Yeah.
Does it stop?
Do you know what? I feel like I need to.
It's probably relevant because Tranquility may well stop Ningyo, and it's sounding very much like the sort of thing that we should be playing against Phoenix.
Tranquility. Let's have a bit of a look-see.
It does not create a blanket effect. If a character enters the opponent's home after Tranquility resolves, it can trigger its abilities because it's not affected. If a character that was at the opponent's home, because it specifically sets opponent's home, so it doesn't target hand and all the red.
Oh, disappointing.
There we go.
Heartbreaker.
RTFC. That's our lesson for the day. Yeah. RTFC.
Read the stuff. All right.
Okay, so speaking of stuff, we've got an event we've just sort of put up, which is season 7 of the Australian. Well, we're calling it the Southeast Asia Discord League. So it's the SEADL. SEADL.
So which provinces, Jesus Christ, which countries and regions do we accept in for the Oz Discord League? Is it basically anyone that wants to, or?
Basically anyone in the Pacific Rim, I'm guessing.
In the Pacific Rim, that's great.
Like America.
Once you're done fighting all your kaiju with your giant robots, you hop over and you play some rings online. Okay, cool. So that's obviously Hong Kong where you are. So anyone sort of any of the Asias,
countries that have like uncensored internet, obviously.
Yeah.
So people that are in China have signed up for the league last season, but they've had to get on like proxy servers in order to access Jigoku Online.
Yeah. Good on them.
Don't know why. They published the game in Chinese, so I mean, like, I don't know. I guess North Korea probably won't have any competitors, that would be interested in rings.
Well, maybe. Jesus. Yeah.
So we've had competitors from, I think, Malaysia and Singapore, and so China and Hong Kong here.
Yeah.
Not including myself, with some of the local Hong Kong people here.
Cool.
I think that might be it. I don't think anybody from Japan signed up. I'm trying to think of like Taiwan or Vietnam or anything. I don't think I saw anybody from those countries.
Yeah. Okay. All right, but no, dead king. So
where's Marwin these days? Is he in Malaysia?
I don't know.
Or is he in Indonesia? Well, if he is in Indonesia, then we should get someone from Indonesia this season.
We'll see if we can tick all the boxes, get the whole region.
Yeah, we'll go for a trifecta.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man. So is there anything changed about the season 7 from season 6?
Yes. So I took Kikuyo off the ban list.
Yeah.
So Kikuyo is now fully available in the Swiss round. So there's no ban cards in the season.
Yeah.
I still feel like, it's just going to happen, right? You're going to tell your deck to counter your opponent, whatever your opponent happens to be.
Yeah.
And then let me think. I think everything else is pretty much the same. We're going to do Tuesday night starter rounds. We'll do 5 rounds. Depending on how many players we actually have, will determine whether we go to like a top 4 or a top 8. In the notes for the sign-up sheet, I said we were going to go to a top 8, but if we don't get enough people to really make a top 8 work, then we'll make a top 4 work.
Yeah, okay. I dig it. I reckon we'll probably comfortably get a top 8. I think we did okay last time.
I think I'd be looking for like 30 plus sort of participants. If we get like somewhere between 16 and 22, I'll probably cut it down to a top 4. If we get sort of a bit more than 30, we can do a top 8.
Yeah, well, we had some really good games last time. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I had to half-assed a couple of games at the beginning. You get to that point where you're like, I've just got to knock this game out. It doesn't matter what else I'm doing. I can't hold everybody up. So you just got to get in there and sign on while you're watching Game of Thrones while you're playing that and trying to feed children and everything else at the same time. Yeah. Some of those things are optional. Like not Game of Thrones. Or
Yeah.
Rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
No particular
Not
order.
saying which ones, of course.
No, good times. No, I'm dead keen. I really enjoyed the last season 6. It was good, and we had some, as I said, some of the guys over here in WA, like Aaron or Abaton. He ended up took out second. I think it was the first time he joined the league, and Mini Inderhouse or Jack also did quite well. I think he was top 4 as well. So.
Well, I only put it up a couple of hours ago, and we've got 7 responses so far. So at least 7 people, and I haven't signed up. So there's 8. There's 8 people. You guys haven't signed up. It looks like.
No.
So that's 9, 10, 10. We've got 10 so far.
Yeah, you get a few more. We'll give it a blast. Give it some traction, and get everyone to sign up. Be good.
I'll put a link up on Lotus Pavilion on the Discord as soon as I start sort of adding the entrance.
Yeah, dead keen
into the thing. Yeah.
Nice, exciting. So we're going to
Yeah.
Is there anything
else?
else?
You know what else is exciting?
What's that? Tell me what else is exciting.
This deck that you guys have submitted for review this week.
This void censored deck. This void hussy.
We should really make an effort. We should really make an effort, and it's hard with me around, to make these episodes about more than just one clan. You know.
I don't know. It's fine. No, I think Phoenix were definitely like they were the big talking point for the past quite a while, and they're in their death throes now, I think. So we'll see.
Death thrones. I think basically you should take us out and shoot us. To be honest, pretty much that's what we're getting to.
I think they took it.
Are you kidding? No fucking way.
I think they're leaving that tier 0 point. Like, I don't think they're in there. I think you'll find that with the Lion Pack coming out and Unicorn and Crane and then
wait. All right. I feel like I need some clarity because I don't understand what you're all talking about. Are you saying that Phoenix was tier 0, which I'm not disputing, but now they're trashed? Now they're trashed here. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying
no. We're not trashed here.
I'm not saying they're trashed here.
I'm going back in the pit.
Where are you putting Phoenix?
Oh, I'd put them at tier 1. Probably comfortably.
Yeah, I've got Phoenix solidly in the tier 1.
Yeah, but but that's fine.
They're back in the pit.
Like
it's not like.
Oh, okay.
Like
they're not S class anymore.
Yeah, they're not like a different game to everyone else, right?
Yeah.
So
it's like basically rock up with it. It's basically not like it was when the game first started, where you rock up with Scorpion and Phoenix will go, "I'm just going to go home now. See you later."
Yeah, that's right. And where most of the field was Scorpion. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of like Phoenix are not that anymore. It's basically we're good, but it's not. We win automatically. Like, you have to actually now do some work.
You still worry about the same things you worried about before, but they just don't get those little advantages that scale. Like Embrace the Void, for example. Like that fate that probably makes a much bigger influence on the game that you're playing overall than you might expect early on. Because often you'd see it and you're like, oh, I can't really burn a let go on that thing for 2 fate, but it can make a very, very big difference. But speaking,
it's basically it was 1 card for 1. Effectively, in the worst case scenario, it was 1 card for 1 free fate.
Yeah,
that was the minimum.
Which I don't think is worth it, to be honest. But
at a minimum.
Well, think about cards like Good Omen. Good Omen is basically a card for a fate. Nobody plays that.
True.
So I think if you're just trading a card for a fate or an honor, or if you're just exchanging any one of those for any one other of those, unless it's going to win you the game, doesn't really seem worth it.
Yeah, we were talking last week about how all of the restrictions on every card in this game, and Good Omen is a perfect example, right? Like the fact that you have to have a lower bid than your opponent, which you can get completely locked out of, right? If you both bid 1, you got nowhere to go, right? And Daisho has changed that, thankfully, to a degree, I suppose. But the fact that it also can't go on anyone that costs 1 or 2, to me is just bizarre. Like, I don't... Like, why? Poor Good Omen. Like, if... I both resent and really enjoy the Daisho. Like, I like that... Mirumoto's Daisho has made it so that both Honor and Dishonor victories are way more viable solely because of that card's existence.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's to such a vulgar degree that... Okay. And it does so much.
Let me put it this way. I was on the receiving end of a Mirumoto's Daisho 3 was it iJutsu trainings that gives you that jewel that you can either ditch cards or lose honor,
Yeah.
and a way
Duelist
of the
training?
dragon, duelist training, and a way of the dragon.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with 7 jewels in one turn, and that I could not bid 1 for, and all the opponent did went, yep, I'll just bid 1, you bid 2, that's 7 honor straight away.
I find I get around that kind of thing by not being bad at the game. So, no,
Damn,
like
sick burn there, buddy.
Yeah, it's just me and Butters all the time.
This is
It's
how we
pretty
do
much you should hear us on tournament day.
No,
Pretty
like-
much we have most of the
Yeah.
tournament in laughter because we're just absolutely trash talking each other.
yeah, but no, I think day shows they just make every jewel in your hand an auto win, is what they do. So the effect on the jewel itself is just a kicker if you happen to win it, right? So it's lose for your opponent. It doesn't matter if they bid high or low or whatever. It's just a matter of how much honor they're giving you. So it's a super amazing card.
Okay, so let's have a chat about this deck.
The Phoenix Void
Yeah.
Slag deck.
Go on, say it.
The
Go on.
Void Slut deck. All right.
The Void Slut deck.
The Void Slut. Now, this is built by Cardinay online, who is a local player, Mark, over here. He and apparently Aaron and Clinton were hashing this out over the weekend. Now, the idea, near as I can tell, actually, Clinton, I'll let you run us through the point of this deck. But I'll just brief that really. The deck strategy in the text is whore the Void Ring, control the board, be a C-bomb. I won't go there. So that's the strategy, right? So Clinton, what's the point? What do we do with the deck?
So basically, the deck idea came about of, funnily enough, after a discussion about how bad Tadaka was, is how much can Phoenix be used to make people pretty much rage quit and quit the game. So we decided to have a look at, well, what's the next most painful Phoenix personality, and Eugenia popped up. So then that kind of led on to other things, and the concept was how many times could you either recycle, reuse, or trigger the Void Ring. And that's how this came about.
So how many Void Rings can you get off all 4 Void Rings in a turn? Is that a thing? And then
Sorry, you cut out for that one.
Oh, so how many Void Rings can you get off in a turn?
Effectively, if the stars align, at the initial, basically in the initial inception, you could get at least 2 to 3 per turn. Looking at what Mark's updated now, pretty much if he has the cards, he can get a Void Ring trigger per turn or per conflict if he's lucky. So you've got things like Unveiled Destinies for getting any other rings that you need, because Unveiled Destiny ties it in with the Seeker of Void roll. Display of Power if your opponents choose it. Know the World, swap into it. Yep, sorry.
So let me. So looking at this deck, I'm just going to name a couple of the key pieces in the deck, and we'll provide a link in the show notes so you can have a look and follow along. But it looks like the key pieces are Unveiled Destiny to put Void onto whatever ring you happen to be attacking on.
That's great.
Eugenia, obviously, to sort of trigger that. Know the World to put that back into the middle so you can attack on it again.
Just keep doing it.
Sakune, so that you can trigger Void because Sakune. Kuroi Mori, so that you can make any ring void. And Display of Power, so that you can. Well, actually, Display of Power is probably near the end of that. Is that about it?
Yeah, it's pretty much
Quite
about
fantastic.
it.
There's a couple of cards that I think you could still use though. Like, I mean, that's a lot. Don't get me wrong, but there are other things in there that I feel like they're in there for the memes, and I appreciate that. Like, I get it. Like, no, really. Like, like
Mark's basically run with it, and he's fine tuning it. So I haven't had a look at this since the initial
well,
inception.
I think fine tuning is a pretty heavy word to be thrown around. But like he's
okay.
Yeah, this
tuning.
A bit of propping up.
This is good. That I enjoy this, but it's like, so he's running the Chike order. Like half of his dynasty deck is 4 costs and above. So he's like, good. He's running what, Hante and Tadaka and Prodigy and Gisitoshi and Ojina, and There's
Honestly, this may actually hurt. Is
Shiba
that I honestly
pacemakers.
knock Hante down to at least two. Three's too much.
Oh,
Yeah, I agree with that.
yeah.
Three's too
I don't know.
much.
Anytime
Down to
he
two.
keeps himself around. What else we got? 3 waning hostilities. That's good times.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so hang on. I was actually going to say that waning hostilities is antithetical to the goals of this deck because you're trying to limit, or so you're limiting the amount of conflicts that there are in a turn.
I have a feeling, and we'll have to. Maybe we'll see if Mark can come on next week and run us through it very briefly because we don't want to do it twice. But and we'll ask Luke because it looks like to me you'd probably pass really early turn 1 and maybe even turn 2. So maybe they're in there to just mitigate the pain you take in the meantime, and then you drop Ugina. So just for some background, like Mark has sent to our local WA chat and Facebook here a snap of him playing on Jigoku with this deck. So he's got on the table Isawa Ugina with 4 Fate sitting on the table, and next to it is the only other character. He's got a Prodigy of the Waves with 4 Fate. It's honoured, and it's got 2 Favor of the Kami, 1 Magnificent Kimono, a Finger of Jade, and an Ornate Fan. So it's like this enormous void claiming behemoth that I suppose just triggers Ugina over and over and over again. But I'm not sure what the rest of the
Pretty
names
special.
are. But I found Ugina, actually, I've admittedly found him a lot more frustrating to play against than I expected. Like
The ability
So
to
you know-
delete.
You know what I would do with the deck. I
Burn.
would get rid of waning hostilities and put in maybe walking away
yeah.
because I think if the whole ball game is to get Ugina on the table, then you need to dig for Ugina. So if you're obviously expecting the game to go to 3 or 4 turns,
Compasses.
and for every walking the way that you play, you probably speed up by a half a turn to a full turn in terms of like dynasty flops.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I like the Haughty Magistrate, but I don't like the Chikai Order Protector.
No.
And I agree with your let's move Hante down to like a 2 or something.
What do you think of the Peacemaker? Shiva Peacemaker. I've often rated him. I think 4-1 for 1, even if it's only defensive, is pretty good. Like,
I think Shiva Peacemaker is good in decks that care about their honor totals because in decks that care about, sorry, not their honor totals, if they care about keeping a high honor count, I think that the Peacemaker is good because you really should defend all of your conflicts in order to maintain the high honor. So he's good there. But if you don't care about your honor total, then you probably don't care about defending conflicts too much.
yeah, fair enough.
Therefore, he's not that great.
I feel like, if nothing else, he's 1 Fate, right? You drop him on the table for a turn, defend whatever military conflict your opponent throws at you, and that's 4 extra force they've got to bring up and just burn cards for. And you've sort of just defended
Yeah,
for the turn.
I don't disagree necessarily. It's just
Suppose he,
he's an easy one for me to cut.
Suppose he-
It's fine.
yeah, he takes up a shug slot, doesn't he? Really?
Well, you know what I think should be in that slot is actually the 1 cost Earth
Solemn
Scholar.
Solemn
Solemn
Scholar.
Scholar.
Solemn Scholar.
Yeah.
And I think you should up Know the World to a 3 because while it is important that you want to trigger the Void Ring as much as possible, at the same time you also want to turn on the abilities of the Prodigy of the Waves and the Shield Peacemaker.
Yeah.
And you probably want to make use of Mastery Gishitoshi more than once, so I would up the Gishitoshi count to 3.
You know what I feel like is probably missing from this deck? We could probably replace Know the World. And I can't remember the name of the card, but it's either the Crane pack or the Unicorn pack had it where you return all rings after a glory count. Return them all to the base pool.
Severed from the stream.
Severed from the
That's a
stream.
Phoenix spell.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of glory in this deck.
Yeah.
That Phoenix spell, like,
Yeah.
I'm wondering why. And also, to be perfectly honest, I feel like even though Isawa Morisado is just great, but I feel like unfortunately Kyuden Isawa might be the goer as well.
Well, there seems to be a disgusting amount of glory in this deck. That I agree that 2 glory here and there is kind of overkill.
It's got like Serene. It's got Serene Warrior in it and things like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have any of the proactive honoring effects. When the new cycle comes out and you can honor a Bushi, I think that will come into this deck. But it doesn't have the if you win by more than. Oh, no, that's not it. Benson's Touch. You bow a Shigenja to offer a person. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like it though. I'm dead keen to see it in play. I'm sure he's built it this way for a reason. I think though you probably.
You know what else? I would put in Elemental Fury into the provinces so that you can swap more rings into Void.
Yeah. No, I like it.
If that's the goal.
Yep. No, I dig it. I like the.
Hey, I just thought of something. If you keep eliminating your opponent's characters, actually there's going to be less opportunity for your opponent to declare attacks because they have no more characters. I suppose that's good, right? Like, if you've gotten to the point in the game where your opponent doesn't have any more characters, then it probably doesn't matter that they're not initiating conflict.
You're just deleting
you
everything
to trigger more void rings, right?
Yeah. I suppose, yeah. Because I was going to say, you need more ways to like strip fate off, but if you're running void rings all the time, actually, you'd run the Kami Unleashed, so you can pay 2 fate and just trigger the void ring and strip fate off on the way. Yeah, anything like that.
Oh, dude. Swap Shameful Display for bloody the
Temple of the Dragons. Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah. And
how many more ways can we trigger Void?
So I feel like Isua Katie probably belongs in there.
Yeah, Katie should be. I noticed he's stripped that out. Katie should be back in there because she just adds Void to everything as well.
Yeah, it's got to be more. I think we need to share this deck.
This deck might have some play if you make some of these changes.
At the very least, it'll make someone cry, and ultimately that's the goal. I mean, if you can release at least one person to tears in a tournament somewhere, then I think you've done your job and you can go home happy. You probably got to get a card of some kind or something. I think we can all agree that that's what we're here for. Or is that just me?
Do you know what? Know what? I think I'm running through this deck in my mind, and I'm actually I'm replacing Tadaka with Charge Bird, so that when I do lose Eugenia, I can bring him back out of the discard pile.
Yeah.
Or when he gets clouded, you can just be like, oh well, I'll just let him die and then bring him back out of the discard pile, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think as you said before,
that frees up your staple freaking splash as well to other things.
Yeah, and as you said before, I think the Benton's Touch, and if you're running Benton's Touch, you're also running Walking the Way, so you can dig.
You go Isua Ueno as well.
Ueno, yeah.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Ueno, or whatever it is.
Ueno,
yeah. But I think what you're doing, because I think you're right on with the Walking the Way for the dig as well, for the filtering your discard, because you can also run, as I was saying before, the compasses also helps you filter some more. And you've also got, what's the holding Phoenix have? The Lighthouse? That lets you filter your own stuff.
Or filter anyone else's. But
so
if you come into the argument,
if
we haven't removed Forgotten Library ever.
Forgotten Library is so good though. But if you double down on this pretty hard, like you could get some pretty solid consistency, I think, out of this deck.
Well, that's the thing. So you would get consistency in terms of void triggers, I think, most likely.
Yep.
But in terms of the payoff with Eugenia, you still need to get 1 of 3 out of 40 cards out of your Dynasty deck, and you've only got that range of 4 cards that you can look at per turn. So yeah, I think
you could Charge Bird.
I think Walking Away is going to be a big help, but if you're going to do Walking Away, I think you need to do Cued Nasawa.
Yeah,
but in the new cycle as well, you've got that Air Province I spotted. What was it? Imperial Summons, 5 Province Strength.
Yeah, the new one.
Grab any personality and refill it with this Province face up.
Is it any person or top 5 cards?
I think it's any person. Let me have a quick look.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw it because straight away I thought, holy shit, Bird Chicken Charge.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it goes with appealing to the fortunes and all the rest. I'm just having a quick look now. Give me a sec.
I thought that was just the top 5.
This game is going to go mental in a couple of months when we get.
Well,
yep,
but this
game's going to go nuts.
It's kind of why I want to open things up. It's
Emperor's Summons.
Seeker roll only.
Yep.
Oh, it's not type 5 card. You go through your whole dynasty and grab any person you like.
Yeah. And it's not restricted to unique or anything. It's any card. It's just Seeker roll.
Yeah, that makes Charge Bird a lot more fun.
Makes Charge Bird, makes fetching, anything.
And it's a nice 5 strength as well. I like that. I think it was... Who was it? It was was either Jade Throne or it was Imperial Advisor. Weren't a big fan, but
We're not, did you say?
yeah, they weren't into that at all. They thought it was just not great at all.
Is it because it's an on reveal?
Maybe, yeah, like a one shot, but you know what? Add it.
Well, it's only good if you want to buy the thing, or if you can get it out of the province on the turn that it gets hit, because you need to then defend the conflict in order to take advantage of the thing that you just got.
Yeah, but there are plenty.
So charging out of Fushito is good.
Out of Charge Bird and also out of Lion and out of Unicorn, they've all got this Dynasty deck recursion that even if you flick the guy away, you can still use them.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
anyway, that's really good. I think we're though at about the end of our allotted ramble time.
That's it. Stop the clock.
Dead keen.
So, did you guys want to shout anybody out, or any events or things like that?
We have an Elemental Championship in July over here in Perth, which is very exciting because we didn't think we were getting one. And I think Nationals, so we're going to have a national event in Australia at some point soon, which is being worked on presently, because we're probably not getting a Kotai because FFG hate us.
I think to be fair to FFG, which don't get me wrong, it's not easy, but I think that the way that it worked over here was that we've got all these stores and the distributors and things like that trying to work all of these events, and FFG and that lot weren't able to reach an agreement. And I don't necessarily think that it's FFG's fault. I think they just weren't able to sort it out.
I'm electing to blame FFG.
I really wish they would just sort of give it over to a player or something. But
yeah, I think. Well, look, honestly, like there are a lot of people here that would have all prepaid to do that stuff just to support it and get it to go. Like heaps of us. But it's really frustrating. I don't think the Southern Hemisphere has a Kotei at all. I'd love to be proven wrong, but anyway. Oh well.
It's good that you mentioned the Elemental Championship, because then you can get your Worlds invite and you can come over to Worlds, And so that's almost like a Kotei, but not quite.
Yeah, it'd be great to get over there and be beaten by new people. That'd be good.
That's right. Be beaten by people from all over the world.
Yep. Yeah. And then all these people that have heard me on the podcast will be like, "Oh, you look just as douchey as I thought you would."
If you go to Worlds, I hear that you can get like a Hidden City Rollers bowling shirt thing.
Ooh, that's exciting. That's it.
Does that incentivize it a bit for you? I'm not saying everybody that goes to Worlds. I'm saying that if you go to Worlds, that could be a thing that happens.
We'll sort it out. We'll get our pimp out stuff.
Go to Minneapolis, get a T-shirt.
Yep. I'll buy my I Heart Minneapolis Rollers T-shirt. Everyone should go. All right. Okay, but look, I think we're going to wrap up. Yeah. So Clinton, thanks very much for coming on and having a ramble with our nonsense.
Not a problem.
Easy. And Merlin,
thanks for having me.
We will chat later. We'll post a whole bunch of links for people in the description.
You bet.
Easy as. Have a good one, guys.
Take care, fellas.
Bye.
Yeah.
Cheers.